All right, Akim, Shalom, Shalom, all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem, HaKakwadash. Double honors the apostles and the elders who were millstone of teaching us his truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Akwatham, and listen, may the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Okwai. I'm back in here with another quick and which was always an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I kind of just wanted to just do a brief recap on a conversation I was having with a Cushite, right? And one of there were just some things that he shared with me, and I thought it was very, very interesting. And Yahweh Ratazah, Yahweh willing that this lesson is edifying. So one of the things that he shared with me is that he was from this particular tribe. I believe it was called, if I remember correctly, it was called the Isaac tribe. So let me just read it. So it's a specific tribe in Somalia. Just bear with me on this. Let me just I'm just gonna read it here. So it says the Isaac. It says is a major Somali clan. It is one of the largest Somali clan families in the Horn of Africa, with a large and densely populated traditional territory. Isaac people claim the traditional legend descended from Sheikh Ishaq bin Ahmed, an Islamic scholar who purportedly traveled to Somaliland in the 12th and 13th century, married two women, one from the local Dur clan, right? So he's essentially, one of the things that stuck out to me was the fact that he knew, okay, when he goes back home, and if somebody asks him where he's from, he knows that he's from a particular tribe. That was number one, right? So number two, what I thought was even more impressive was the fact that he said he was able to track 10 generations of his father's line from him going back 10 generations ago, basically, right? I thought that was really, really, like, honestly, truly impressive to know that type of information and know it orally, because they didn't essentially kind of like write things down and so on and so forth. So because I asked him, and then he said to me, he's like, yeah, I can, I know from myself, I know 10 generations going back, right? So that's going back from a father, grandfather, great grandfather, great great grandfather, and so on and so on and so forth, right? So I thought that was very impressive, because us now understanding that we are the chosen, we are Israelites. We know that one, we know that we discontinue from a heritage. That's number one, right? But when you think about on our people here, in this side of the world, for example, we don't have that, essentially, that recollection of knowing our history, going back to our fathers, because Jake's mind is very warped. And I say that because they think, they think that their nationality is defined by the confines of the actual borders, the physical geographical borders they're born under, right? But what this guy is explaining here, he's explaining, the Cushite I was talking to, he's explaining that it's a bloodline, and that's very, very true. It is a bloodline, right? So as a matter of fact, let me open up with this precept here. Let's go to Jeremiah 6. Because that shows that Jake has been in Babylon for way too long, right? Even I even had a conversation as well with a Jake. let me read this precept first. And it says, Jeremiah 6 verse 16, and it says, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, stand ye in the ways and seek and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for their souls. But they said, we will not walk therein," right? So, knowing our heritage, it's our heritage transcends the physical landmass, that we're born under, right? So there was a moment, I believe, in Acts where Paul actually calls himself a Roman, but he defines himself as an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin, and later on I'll get that, right? But it shows you the mentality of our people here versus our people actually back then, because they were more adherent to this ancient way. They knew, okay, my lineage was one determined by my father and my father's father, my father's 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 father, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. I'm from this particular tribe, right? Let me get, where's my, okay, I'll just pull it up here. Just bear with me on this. Just an example of that ancient way. Okay, this is Tobit 1 verse 1, and it says, the book of the words Tobit, the son of Tobiah, the son of Ananiah, the son of Aduel, the son of Gabiel, of the seed of Asael, of the tribe of Naphtali, right? So it shows you the progression, from him, his father, his father's father, his father's 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 father, and going back to the actual tribe that you're born under, right? There's an account in Ezra's as well, right? So it shows you the difference between how Jake thinks, now versus the way, we were thinking back then. We understood that a heritage, is essentially beyond the confines of that physical border that we're born under. We know that we got scattered, and the Lord scattered us, and that's one of the curses, that we'd be scattered over the four corners of the earth, and then we would be serving other gods, even wood and stone, to roughly paraphrase. And through that different scattering, Jake would settle there. Maybe Jake didn't return back into the land, and essentially we began to take on the women there, and then take on the customs of the women that were probably even there scattered at the time, these different heathen women. As a matter of fact, even Nehemiah had cursed out a lot of Israelites for doing that. Let me see if I could find that actually. It shows you the importance of the scattering, and it shows you the importance of the seed, because the seed still goes back to the man, right? Let me get, okay, this is Nehemiah 13 verse 23, just in regards to the scattering. And it says, and in those days I saw Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab. And the children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak the Jews' language, according to the language of each people. And I contended with them, and cursed them, and smote certain of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by the Most High Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, saying, ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons for yourselves. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? And that's one of the ways that Solomon went off, was because he began to give homage to those different idols of those different nations, right? When he got a little bit older, right? So it says, he among many nations, there was no king like him, who was beloved of his power, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And the Most High made him king over Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause him to sin, right? So that's kind of one of the points I wanted to draw on, but still harping on the point that the seed is still carried by the man. Now, There was one point I wanted to bring across. Okay, let me go to Romans. Oh, actually, I'll go to Isaiah. Slack on this. Consider. Okay, this is Isaiah 1 and 3, referring to our people. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider, right? So they don't consider, to the extent of, what happened to the the our heritage per se, because we've been bamboozled a lot by Esau's philosophies when we go into these different secondary schools and colleges and so on and so on and so forth. you know they think that their heritage, they think that they strictly go back to Africa, and it goes even more, a lot deeper than that. Because yes, we were scattered and we fled into Africa, but we were not always dwelling in Africa, right? We got scattered all over the world, and Jake's mind is very, they don't consider these things. They don't consider the history of, okay, why were we in Africa? Were we always in Africa? Why are so-called dark-skinned people selling our people? What's going on with that history? Our people don't consider these things. They're such lost sheep, where they think that we were always there. And if you ask Jake about basically simple things about the culture of like, for example, like Western African culture, Jake here can't tell you anything. They're so dumbed down and so on a low level. That's why the scriptures talk about gross darkness to people, because our people are really under a vibration of not knowing well, anything basically. They're not trying to be mean. They're sottish children. Like the scriptures say also, they are wise to do um, evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. They don't actually understand, and they don't know anything about themselves. They're just sheep wandering in a wilderness, basically, right? So in regards to the seed, our people don't know, they don't know the importance of the seed. That's another thing as well, right? And the man, as a lot of women may not like me saying this, they don't know that a man carries, both the X and the Y chromosome. That's why, the Israelite man's seed is extremely important. And these other nations understand that, and they know that, right? Those who don't know, the man carries both the X and the Y chromosome, and he needs. So when you lay down with a woman and you have child with a woman, she needs to receive essentially another chromosome for that baby to produce that certain type of genitalia. So she already has an X, and then you have both the X and the Y. So if you give her a Y, then that child's going to be a boy. If you give her another X, then that child's going to be a girl, right? Which, by the way, the Y chromosome is essentially disappearing. That is something that is happening these days, through different things that Esau is essentially doing right now, right? But the point really is, the seed is extremely important, and you Israelites they're so essentially on a low level, to the point where they don't know that Esau is essentially doing covert and hidden things to get rid of that seed. For example, I was having another conversation with another person, and then they were showing me pictures of what was this guy's name? If you look up Magic Johnson's son, I don't know his name, but essentially this is one of the tactics that we see, with going on with our people. They take on these different heathen customs, and it's a ploy, by the enemy to get essentially to get rid of the seed, That's really what it is. Because if you see him, you're like, yo, this guy can't bring forth seed, and it's done. The same thing is done with Dwayne Wade's children, his son. I think the same thing was done with he was showing me it was Denzel Washington's daughter or something like that. I think she's like a lesbian. But the point really is that, when our men get into the industry, get into these particular industries, not to go too far off topic, you know, the objective is essentially to get rid of that seed, right? They don't want Israel back in power, man. They don't want our people. They don't want our sons back in order. Kind of like I was doing a lesson on, recently, yesterday, right? They don't want to see that. The scriptures say that he that teacheth the son grieveth the enemy, right? So when our men are in order, it's a fearful thing to see that, right? So they use these different tactics, these different ploys to essentially get rid of that seed, right? As a matter of fact, let me get an example of that. Hold on. Kind of all over the place, but hopefully this is edifying. I'm kind of just trying to recall some of the things that was spoken to me. See if I get the chapter. 1 second. Okay, this is Matthew chapter 2. I'll read verse 13 going down. The point's really in 16, and it says, "And when they departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared unto Joseph in a dream. Arise, take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, where there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. And when he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night, and departed into Egypt. And there was a great death until the great death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled that I was spoken, which was spoken by the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt I have called my son." Verse 16, and here's the point. It says, Then Herod, when he saw he was mocked by the wise men, exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in the coasts thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. And then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremiah in the prophet, saying, In Ramah there was a voice heard, lamentation, weeping, and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, which would not be comforted because they are not, right? So essentially Herod goes on a campaign to essentially, kill off, a lot of these babies when he heard about the birth of Yahushua, right? And this was a prophecy that was also found in the Old Testament. I think that's Jeremiah 31, right? But the point is that, there were different examples of, that extermination of the babies, of the males, of trying to get rid of the males. And that's exactly the same sentiment you still see to this day. You still see that, and it's kind of like on a hands-free mode, basically, with these heathens now, because all they have to do now is to put forth different measures in place, like, for example, like Planned Parenthood. So when I say hands-free, I mean, like, you still don't really have to do much, because our people's minds, especially a lot of our women's minds, have been so bamboozled by the philosophies of the serpent. They think that, okay, getting and deleting their babies is an empowering thing. They think it's very, it's a bold, you're doing the right thing, and so on and so forth, right? And that's how far gone of a people we are, and we don't recognize the importance, of our own seed, right? Even the women especially, because they've been drinking of that serpent's philosophies ever since the time of basically they start going to universities or they start listening to their mother, for example, right? So yeah, I just wanted to bring that out as an example because it shows you the Israelite man's seed is extremely, important. And it also on a low-key level, shows you, you brothers are very, very, important as well, right? Because when you think about in this society, we are not seen as, as the men to be sought after, basically, right? We're not seen as, because, Jake is not seen as, a prize, essentially a prize possession. I'm kind of referring in a way, in a sense, to, comparing them, how the other nations would maybe look at, the so-called white man. If he's well dressed and well spoken, he's eloquent and so on and so forth. Now you're starting to see a slowly of a shift, right? But that glow and that respect, isn't there, right? Um, so anyways, I kind of went a little here and there, but I pray and sincerely hope. Oh, let me get that precept actually in regards to Romans. It's in in regards to Paul. What is that? Romans. Okay, Romans 11:1, and it says, I say then, hath the Most High Yahweh Bashem Shai cast away his people? Yahweh forbid. For also I am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham of the tribe of Benjamin, right? So it shows you, just going back to the earlier point I was making, the difference between knowing your tribe versus also knowing that our bloodline is not defined by the confines of that physical landmass that we're born under. So if you ask Jake today, they would tell you, okay, I'm American, or I'm African, or I'm Jamaican, or I'm Cuban, or Puerto Rican, and so on and so forth, right? To some extent, the northern tribes, I think, would adhere a little bit more to that mindset of knowing their, I guess, their tribe per se, but they still don't know their bloodline, right? Jake doesn't consider. So, anyways, I'll leave it there. I don't want to listen too long, but I sincerely pray and hope this was edifying. I just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashem Shai. Until next time, I say Shalom.